How's it going, everybody? Jesse Montaño, Guerilla Sports, back here in the studio. The season's over for the Colorado Avalanche. That means we're officially into the offseason. I put out the call for questions to start a summer mailbag series. We'll be doing this every week, taking your guys' questions throughout the offseason about what's coming next for the Avs, what's going on, any kind of breaking news. Put out the call, and as always, you guys flooded the inbox with more than we could put into one video. So we're actually going to take this first mailbag, split it into two mailbags this week and next week. I'm really looking forward to it. I always love answering you guys' questions. So let's get into it. Instagram, Twitter, or X, I guess. Wherever you drop those questions, just make sure to keep them coming all summer. Let's get into it. All right, first question, the Media Tolerance Award. Shout out to our guy, Peter Baugh, who started this last year. Last year went to Mikko Rantanen, the player who, never has a problem talking to the media, always generous with their time, always gives good answers. There's a couple different people that we could pick, but I think for me, it's Andrew Cogliano. Always stood in there, always had a good answer, and never turned anybody away. Always willing to give his time. For me, Andrew Cogliano was the most tolerant of us media folk this year. Next question, how much do the Avs sign Jonathan Drouin for this season? Look, right now I saw this morning his projected cap hit is probably going to get somewhere around 4 years, $5 million per year. I think if you're wanting to be at all semi-realistic with the Avalanche being able to bring him back, that number's got to be closer to 4 for you to even start that conversation. Chris MacFarland said a couple days ago, we would like to bring him back. He's a valuable piece to this team, but it's about making the money work. You got to make the money work. 4 years, $5 million, that's probably just too rich for the Avalanche, given the uncertainty behind Valeri Nichushkin, Gabe Landeskog. If you can get that number closer to 4, I think there's a way you can maybe start trying to work it in, have to shuffle some pieces around. Kind of following up on that question, how confident do you feel that the Avs are going to be able to re-sign Jonathan Drouin? Look, I think this is going to be an interesting story to follow. I think everybody sees so clearly how well he fits with the team, how well the team fits with him, the bounce-back season that he had. Obviously, he's got his best friend Nathan MacKinnon right here in town. This is a Stanley Cup contender, and the guy's made over $30 million in his career. I think he's motivated to stay here. I think the Avs are motivated to keep him here. I think these two sides are going to try everything they can to get a deal that works. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money. Jonathan Drouin just had a great season. There's going to be plenty of teams calling on his services. We'll see if the Avs can get that hometown discount to keep him here in Denver. Like I said, I think both sides will be motivated. We'll see what it comes down to money-wise. Next question. Rumors of Ottawa shopping Brady Tkachuk. Would you see a package of Sammy G, a first, etc. for him? Could that solve some issues with Gabe and Val out? And who are some of the third-pairing defensemen that the Avs should target? A lot of questions there. Look, if someone's shopping a player like Brady Tkachuk, this Avalanche management group has already shown they're going to kick tires. They're going to at least inquire on what something like that would cost. The Avs are always going to be in on moves like that while they're in this competitive window. Look, let's just be honest, though. They'll probably look at it. I would be shocked if they got seriously involved in a move like this. You're probably you're talking too many assets. You're talking too many pieces that you'd have to move out to bring one player back in that really, maybe if you're going hard out on Val, if there's something with contract termination there, and trust me, we'll get more into Val questions here coming up, trying to ease us into this. I don't know. Maybe that, if that's a hard decision that Val Nichushkin isn't coming back, maybe you can get involved in something like that, a player with a little bit more grit, sandpaper, playing below the goal line. I just really don't see that happening, especially moving on from a guy like Sam Girard, who was outstanding. Maybe your most consistent defenseman since coming back from the NHLPA's player assistance program, not to mention adding additional assets on top of that to try to bring in a player. I like the idea of, hey, if there's a big name player out there, go for it. But I don't know. I just think that that's probably a little bit too rich. As for third pairing defensemen, I'm actually going to put a pin in that one because we got a couple more questions that are coming up that I think is going to answer that question. I will say I do think the Avs like Jack Johnson. He's probably a league minimum guy. I can totally see that being a fit for him for the Avs bringing him back. But again, I'll dive more into the third pairing defenseman here in a minute. All right, I just mentioned getting into some of the Val stuff. This is stuff that we knew was coming, right? Let's talk about it a little bit. Next question. Do you think the core would be okay with Val returning if management said this is what's best for the organization? Here's how I'm going to answer that. They may not have a choice. Chris MacFarland told us just a couple days ago, we have explored all options to this point. And right now, contract termination is not an option. You can't buy this player out. And even if you could trade the deal, which I don't fully know, there's a lot of gray area on this. Even if you could trade the deal, you're basically giving that player away for nothing. You're not really getting anything in return. It's going to be a sticky situation for the Avs. Chris MacFarland also said it's very plausible that he could be back with the Colorado Avalanche next season. The players in that locker room may not have a choice, but I also thought something Gabe Landeskog said was very telling. We'll see how Val handles this situation, how the next 6 months go.
It's kind of up to Val now how he handles this, and obviously once he comes back and hoping that everything goes well and, you know, he's ready to be a part of this team, you know, we obviously will, you know, be ready to have him back and be ready to battle out there on the ice. But yeah, we hope Val gets right. We hope he gets what he needs and is able to come back and help us.
The vibe in that locker room has shifted to there is a personal level of accountability to this. You know, as much as Valeri Nichushkin needs to take care of himself and make sure that he gets right for himself, his family, he also has 30 other guys, including management and coaches, that he has made a commitment to, that he's got to show up for. The Avs, if they are forced to have him back in the locker room, he can't get out of the contract, he's got to come back into that room, they're going to do their best to support him. He has to do his best to support that group as well. That's where I think a lot of the frustration is coming from. The Avs have done everything they can to support Valeri Nichushkin, put him and his personal needs first, and it just feels like he is not quite returning the favor right now. So, look, I think the team would do it. I think there's a chance they're going to have no choice, but a lot of that's going to be on Valeri Nichushkin and how he handles the situation, not only right now, but going forward for the next 6 months, and if he does have to walk back into that locker room. Next, Val question. What is the normal NHL random drug testing protocol and how does it compare to players in the player assistance program? Look, I'm not going to act like I know exactly what goes into the random drug testing protocol. I'm sure that's kept relatively quiet for obvious reasons. My understanding is, though, a lot of that random drug testing they do are looking for PEDs and things like that, not necessarily banned substances, narcotics, things like that. Again, not saying that they aren't looking for some of that stuff, but on the whole, a lot of those random drug tests are to make sure that players are playing fair and playing clean. Once you enter into the player assistance program, as you come out of that, you kind of sign an agreement, you sign an agreement saying, I'm not going to do these certain things. I consent to being tested for these certain things, so often and to hit these steps and follow this course of treatment. So once you go through that process, you are held to a little bit of a different standard because it's something that's on the league's radar now. So, it's not something that he's necessarily, that Valeri Nichushkin was being tested for before. The start of this process 13 months ago has led to this point where he's now struggling to pass these drug tests that he agreed to take for substances that he agreed I'm not going to take part in. So that is how it differs a little bit when you come out of the PA player assistance program. You do sign something saying, I'm going through these steps and I'm sticking to these stages of rehabilitation that I've agreed to. And that's the part where we're getting into the hot water here with Val. I thought it was interesting. Chris MacFarland said the other day, he got a phone call from a certain number and he knew right what it was a couple Mondays ago when all this happened with Valeri Nichushkin. So, tough situation, but doing the right thing, going through the process, yes, you are held to a little bit of a higher standard. Is Georgie's job safe? Yes, Alexander Georgiev will be back in the burgundy and blue next year, and likely with Justus Annunen as his full-time backup. I think, look, I was going to say I think he instilled a lot of confidence in Avs management. I know I stopped myself because I could already feel the eye rolls coming just through the lens. Alexander Georgiev's issue for 2 years in Colorado has been consistency. It has never been his ability to play at a high level. We've seen it. I've said multiple times in the last couple weeks. I thought he was the Avs playoff MVP this season. A bad game one against the Jets, and then I thought he was great for the next, what did we have? 10 games after that, I thought he was fantastic. He'll be back next year, but I don't think it's 100% certain that he gets a contract extension after his deal expires next year. The ball's in his court a little bit. They gave Justus Annunen a multi-year extension. You really liked what you saw out of Annunen there in the back half of the season. This might turn into a little bit of a battle next year. And hey, can Justus Annunen maybe start to emerge and become a full-time NHLer and potentially even push in a 1A, 1B type situation? So Georgiev, I believe, will be back next year. Obviously, anything can happen if some crazy trade falls right in the Avs' lap. But I believe he'll be back. I don't know for certain if he'll be back 2 seasons from now. The pros and cons from moving on from Gabe Landeskog, I'm just going to say this right off the bat. They're not. They're not going to do that. Chris McFarland told us just 2 days ago, Gabe Landeskog has earned the right for as long of a recovery as he needs. Given everything he's given to the organization, his status within the organization, all of it. His desire to be a part of this team and this culture and how much he drives the bus on that. Chris McFarland said, we're going to wait. We're going to wait till he's ready. And look, if they get to a point where he's not, then you deal with that then. There is literally no harm in waiting to see if he can come back. Yes, there's a little bit of uncertainty right now. Will he be back next regular season? Will you have to account for his cap hit? You deal with those issues when they come. The good part about Gabe Landeskog and the cap hit question is you get the player back. If he comes back, you get a great player. Sure, he may not be at 100% of the Gabe Landeskog that we knew, but if he can give you, 80 to 85% of that, that is better than 95% of the options that you'd be able to go out and get with that same money. So pros and cons, I don't see any pros to moving on from Gabe Landeskog right now, other than the fact that you get this much more clarity in terms of what you can do with your money next season. I really don't think there's any pros from the Avs punting on the Gabe Landeskog situation now at this point, after having given it 2.5 years to see how it plays out. There's no benefit to just punting on that now. All right, last 2 questions here from my guy Lars over in Germany. Met him at the Global Series a couple years ago. We've stayed in touch. Great guy, unbelievably smart hockey mind, but got a couple questions in for us. So let's take a look. Avs 1.0 might have won 1 cup less than they should have. What would the Avs 2.0 have to do in the next 5 years to not make them a one-hit wonder kind of failure? Does it have to be another cup, multiple finals, conference finals? I think you need to win another cup. A Stanley Cup with this core is already a success. It's already a success. You did something that there have been countless teams who have had great cores fall short. You've won a Stanley Cup. You've raised another banner inside a Ball Arena. This core is already a success. But my goodness, would it feel underwhelming if we come out of this core in however many years, more than 5, with only 1 banner. This team, this core, feels like it's a core that's built for long-term sustained success, and you'd like to see them reach the mountaintop at least one more time and match the championship output from the Avs 1.0 in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think this team is capable of not only winning 1 more, I think they should win 2 more by the time it's all said and done. But yeah, you need to see them win a couple more cups. Conference finals, Stanley Cup finals are great. How many people remember the fact that the Boston Bruins have been to 2 Stanley Cup finals since their Stanley Cup championship? Not a ton, right? So you need to win 1 more with this core. Last one here again from our good friend Lars. You mentioned Yakov Trenin as a player that the Avs should try to keep. Is he the only guy that you think they should keep from the pending UFAs? How realistic is it for any of those guys to stay? I think it's Yakov Trenin, and I think it's Jonathan Drouin. Those are your number 1 priorities for bringing back in UFA from my perspective. I thought Yakov Trenin just fit in perfectly in the bottom 6. A Jared Bednar type of guy. Big, strong, fast, has some finish to his game. I think he rounds out your bottom 6 really nice. Jonathan Drouin, we talked about earlier, obviously a key piece. And then I mentioned that I wanted to circle back to that bottom pairing defenseman because I don't think Sean Walker is coming back. And the reason is I think it is going to be Sam Malinsky there on that bottom pair. I think he impressed enough this year. They're going to give him a look next season. full-time with the roster. I think he's ready for it. Great kid, great player, got a really good head on his shoulders, smart player. I think Sam Malinsky makes the jump next season, and that will be that third pairing guy, meaning that you can let Sean Walker walk in unrestricted free agency. All right, I think that's all we got for this week. Like I said, we got about 20 more questions, and we're going to dive into those next week for you guys. We're heading into the long weekend. Hope everyone enjoys, stays safe. Guerilla Sports, Avs Mailbag, Episode 1, done. We'll talk to you guys next week. Keep the questions coming.